Vénganse, vénganse, vénganse. Vamos a jugar hoy, hoy, hoy. Vamos a cantar hoy, hoy, hoy. Vamos a llorar hoy, hoy, hoy. Vamos a fumar hoy, hoy, hoy. Vamos a jugar hoy, hoy, hoy.
Hey friends, welcome to another episode on this frequency. I'm Natalie and we have Ray in the building.
Hey.
We don't have Ricky Lee today because she's out making that money, honey. I'm dancing. By the way, you guys, if you are listening to the audio version of this podcast episode, we highly recommend that you tune in on Twitch live on Fridays at 6 p.m. or catch us on YouTube on Wednesdays once these episodes drop. That way you can get a better feel for our body language, our actual environmental vibe, especially for this episode.
Oh, yes.
Because we are hands-on. We are literally getting our hands dirty. We are repotting plants, y'all.
I'm excited.
I'm super excited.
Senor vibes to the max.
Yes. You know, when we were talking about this last week, Ray, I was not expecting for you to be down for this episode. And then all of my plant dreams came true. I was like a child again. I was like, oh my God, yay, someone wants to play.
We're going to do it.
Yeah,
we're going to do it.
We're going to do these plant things. So we are repotting plants. We're shooting the shit. We're gonna just make Ricky jealous that she's not here.
Oh, man,
and that
FOMO.
she's off somewhere else working. The FOMO is real.
Working.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Girl, we better hear where you were
Working.
at working. That's what she told me.
That's what she told me to working.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, and I think she even tried to play it by sending a text.
oh yeah, hey,
Say, by the way, I'm here and here working. And by the way, we had this conversation. I'm like,
that was a good combo though.
Yeah.
That was a good combo.
Yeah. Should we kind of spill the beans? I
You
think
can.
We'll bring in last week's episode.
Yeah, we'll bring
to
in
this
part of that because that was
episode.
actually a good topic, and I think because Homeboy is the wave right now.
Yes.
Right?
So
a
Peso
lot of,
Pluma, right?
Yeah, Peso Pluma is the wave right now. So a lot of people, even at the shop, are like, and there's mixed like reviews on the dude, right? Like, because then there's some dudes that are like super paisa.
Yeah.
They're like, no
what
me
about
cae
this
bien ese
guy?
güey.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, I don't know, bro.
Bandwagoner.
I'm cool with them. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
Yeah.
if
He's getting it.
if that's what it takes for everybody to see what we're doing and know what the culture is and was, like, fuck it, let's do it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And so Ricky had mentioned, Nestor mentioned that Peso Pluma would be the one to take Bad Bunny's throne.
Yeah, like if anybody was to do it, it would be Peso
him.
Pluma, which is kind of cool. Like,
Yeah, I wouldn't knock it.
I don't think they should. I don't think it should ever be that, like, where it's like, hey, one should take the other. I think one, because there's that stigma, like Mexicanos versus Latinos, right?
Right.
Because it's like you're either Mexican or you're Latino. Like,
Right.
don't put me in the Latino category if I'm Mexican.
Right, I'm Mexican to the core, and don't call me.
But I think
Hispanic
if you
or anything
put
like that.
yeah, you put the two together, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's really dope. Like, fuck it, do a collaboration.
Right.
If Peso Pluma's the one to dethrone, in a sense,
Yeah.
why not just pass the crown?
Yeah,
You know,
I think
like,
that's a better
or
way
pass
to
the
put
torch.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
here it is, bro. Like, let's
Like-
do it together.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. I think it's just lifting each other up at the end of the day, and it would be very cool, in a male's perspective, to see that kind of empowerment from both of those views, right?
I think it would have to be. It's almost
Yeah.
like athletes, right?
Yeah.
Like Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson. If anyone could go that far back with it, like, it's like, look, Michael Jordan had to dethrone Magic Johnson in the Lakers in order for Michael Jordan to be who Michael Jordan is now, you know? So
Right.
it's just like, fuck it, let's go. Why
yeah.
not?
Let's pave the way and just kind of step aside so that somebody else can win.
And you're not hating on each other.
No,
you know what I mean?
no.
I
And
still think there's time for Bad Bunny to still, like, flourish.
yeah,
I don't
think so too.
I don't think he's done, but I think some, like, a collaboration where the two could be
Yeah.
like cool with each other, that'd be fucking dope.
I think they have to do it. And look at I'm over here gonna start talking like I know Bad Bunny. But Bad Bunny doesn't strike me, and Peso Pluma neither, right? They don't strike me as the type to wanna one up each other or to be envious or like, no, I'm the best or he's the best. Like I think they would definitely talk each other up. Like, hey,
Well,
like
you have
I got
to.
him. You know what I mean?
And the thing is, I think we're the ones that do that. I think we're the ones that put them in those scenarios.
Start talking, right?
You know, because then it's just like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
You're better than him, and you could be like, it's like you could talk that up, but don't put me against him.
Yeah.
You know, like because now it's just like we're gonna be fighting against each other, and that's kind of something. There's people that want to see that, and they're like, "See, we told you, told you these fools ain't no different than everybody else."
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We end up doing the bad shit, for other people, and that wasn't even their intention to begin with.
Yeah,
we're fucked up, dude.
You know what? It is what it is.
This kind of changed.
So, right?
This one
we're gonna make a fucking movement going on right here. Well, what we got going on? We mentioned last week that we're gonna do.
Plant repotting.
Or plant repotting.
Yeah.
And we're going to teach people with your knowledge how to do these things. Now, you got
I have a whole setup.
Yeah, you got your
I just
set
realized,
over there.
like, I have this whole thing, and then
I got my two here. But you know what? I wanted to just bring these two because these are the two that I'm like, all right. You guys are getting crowded for sure.
Yeah.
I told you earlier that I repotted a pathos.
Yeah.
Pathos or pathos?
Pathos.
Pathos. So I repotted a pathos, which this is, I believe, a pathos. Actually, too. It's right. It's a satin pathos.
Yep, that's right.
The other one that I repotted at home was a golden pathos.
Oh, which I have right here, actually.
Yeah, and those tend to do that a lot.
Yeah.
But after repotting it, mine actually went bing, like it just started standing up on its own. I was like, oh, wow, that's how it's supposed to look.
Yeah.
Eventually, it droops because of all that weight, right? Because there's so many, but mine isn't as full as this.
Oh,
so I'm waiting for it to be like that full, but it needed it because as soon as I repotted it, it did do its thing, and I was just like, all right, cool.
It came back to life.
I did it right.
This one was making me sad. I was like, no, and I wasn't going to bring it to repot, but I was like, no, it's time. It's missing a whole bunch of soil. I don't even know that I don't think it's a little root bound, but not too much. It could still go on for much longer. And I think we mentioned off air that there are some plants that can thrive being root bound for a while. This is also one of them, but no, this poor thing, like, she needs help, and she also needs to be fertilized too.
And for some of the ones that are like they can survive being root bound, excuse me, those are the ones that are usually you have to like actually you don't water them the same, right? Like you would actually have to from what I've seen and what I've read, that is you should actually like water them from the bottom. Because the root needs to actually grab it directly. Yes,
when they're root bound, right? Is what you're saying. Yes, I've heard the same thing, and I've tried it, and it has worked. Now, for example, I have one that, like this one here, this Anthurium that is super root bound. And it's just not, it's starting to fall apart. Like you could see that it's yellowing. And it's coming out
from the top. Look at that.
And the roots are coming out from the top and from the bottom. So let me see if you guys can see it. Like it's ready. She's ready. And the roots are still very white and lush. So it just needs a bigger pot. But because we haven't repotted it, it's starting to show on the leaves with these kind of yellow spots. So it's time.
So that's another indicator, right? Because I had told you earlier about the lily that I have at the house, where the rest of the plant is like flourishing, but there's one or two little leaves that are like coming from the bottom, that are getting those brown tips, and it's just like, wait a minute, why? If all the bigger ones are getting the water,
right?
Why these two?
Is the bottom ones?
Yeah. Why? What would happen with those? Why are those browning? Were the bigger ones that are actually up?
So and this is like nature, right? And it's a good thing that you mentioned this, and it's a good thing to take note of when you're looking at your plants and seeing, okay, is it time to repot? What does it need? When the plant's leaves from the bottom are starting to yellow, it's natural, because it's just, they're going to die off because they're the oldest leaves that the plant has. So it's actually in a sense shedding, and it's making room for more growth.
Oh,
so that it
okay.
can keep up.
Because you can think I'm stupid.
No,
but
no.
I've been trying to like actually put it like I would like I got a little piece of twine like nah you got to go up with the rest of them.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's like it still just finds its way to
like
drop
droop
down a little
over.
bit. So it's just like you know what maybe
poor
that's
thing.
just how you want to be.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing. And I was talking to Ricky. With shout out to Mota Ricky.
Hey girl.
She's in the chat. We got
see you in
Rebecca
the chat.
Rose.
Oh, and Vinny's on
Vinny
here
Code,
too. Rebecca, happy Friday.
The real Vinny Code, please stand up.
Oh, that's it. Dude, does he have a new theme song?
You know, we're gonna have to. I'm gonna do something. We're gonna have to do something with. I got a drop from Ricky with his name. So
oh, nice.
We can make some. Yeah, we can make something happen.
Nice. I love it.
I was telling Ricky. So I give you like the backstory to how I got into plants.
Yeah, please
right?
do. I did want to ask you that.
And so initially, it started as me just needing something to decorate my studio at the house.
That's right.
Right. And I was just like, hey, Nat, what do you have so I could like add some color to what I have at the house?
Yeah.
And you're like, easy. Like, what kind of room? I said, there's no light other than artificial light. And you're like, these are dope. This is what you can get.
Yeah.
Which actually, these two are part of that collection that you brought me.
Yeah.
This one has withstood all of them with ease. Whereas it's like, I could leave it alone and there's nothing I have to do with it.
ZZs are so resilient.
And
I love them.
I don't think if you knew this, but the reason why I was like, I need plants is because Mota was the one every time I would do a set, everything around me was a plant.
Oh, yeah. That's how she decorates the set. Yeah.
Ricky Lee, Ricky Lee sparked it, and you're supplementing it. Yeah. So,
it was bound to happen.
Shout out to the host of On This Frequency.
Here we are
for doing that
right.
and turning me into a senor.
Important. Yes.
I got my coffee. I got my coffee over here, and this is literally what I do
Friday nights.
and it's not like every morning, so that's like another thing. I mean, I get depending on your plants, right?
Yeah.
You don't mess with them every day. And that was what I was going to get to with talking to Ricky about. It's like, I didn't realize, like, some people get so into it.
Yeah.
Where it's just like they do too much and then they start killing their plants.
Yes. That was me the first year that I started taking plants seriously. I wanted to water the shit out of them and fertilize as much as I could and just do it all. And I think half of those plants are already dead.
And they're almost like teens, right? Like they're like teenagers. They just give them what they need to eat and leave them the fuck alone.
Yes, they don't give a shit about anything extra. They don't want, they do want you to talk nice to them, but they don't want you to overfeed or overstimulate them because then they're going to get pissy. So I'm a better mom now. I am.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And shit, you got, if anyone follows your other page.
Yes, Primavera Color Limon, which I have highlighted on my personal Instagram as well.
Check her out on that because she has.
Thank you.
And like I've bought. I've bought like a whole nother set of stuff, which actually that one erythium
and Anthurium. We both said it wrong today. I said Aruthium and
Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin over there.
Yes, that's gonna be her name, Aretha.
Aretha Franklin over there.
Yeah.
That's the one I was like, man, I want to get something for my grandma so that my grandma has something to look at, like in the room, right? Like something that she could just enjoy, and there's not much to it,
right?
As far as care, right?
Right.
So what are we doing here?
So I'm going to start repotting this root-bound pothos, and the first thing that I'm going to do is take all of this soil off, the old soil, because it's time for new soil. This soil doesn't have any of the nutrients that it needs anymore. I think this particular plant has been in this pot for the last, 3-4 years. So it's time.
Okay. So in the process of repotting, for anyone that doesn't know how to repot and is looking to repot, what is the first step to it?
So the first step would be to find out what kind of soil your plant actually needs. Mm-hmm. Pothos in particular aren't like very needy and picky. They can take any house potting soil. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the big tub of soil back there. I tend to mix the soil that I buy. So I buy indoor organic soil.
Okay.
And you can get this at like, where did I get it? Home Depot.
Mm-hmm.
Get an organic kind because they're indoor plants and you end up smelling and inhaling all of the chemicals and talking. And that's just kind of the person I am. So
Yeah.
Organic just works for me. So anyway, I end up mixing soil, a variety of things in indoor house potting soil. So I'll do that. I'll put in a little bit of orchid bark. And then I'll also do worm castings into the soil. So the worm castings work as a fertilizer for the plant.
Okay.
And then the orchid bark helps to keep the soil and the roots, it makes it airy. So that, in a sense, the roots aren't suffocating.
Okay,
That's technically what it's for.
So it's drainage.
Exactly.
So that's I guess a scientific term of it.
Yeah,
but I know that based off of like.
You've learned so much.
Well, no, well, see,
it's been what, a few months?
Back in
my day.
Look at, Ricky's is enjoying this. In the back of her head, she's probably like, "Yeah, old man, how long has it been?"
Yeah.
But no, so for like me understanding the whole drainage thing was because obviously I've explained to people how I grew up. Like, we used to have to do a lot of the stuff that we do at my mom's house on our own, right? Okay. So we actually ran the water system for our washing machine out into our grass. So that's the same thing that we had to do then was actually we had to dig deep into the ground and put rocks. And as we went lower, it was bigger, right? So it was bigger rocks to more like finer gravel. And then we topped it off with the grass, with the actual
that
dirt.
Way the water had drainage, right?
This way it wasn't just sitting and then making the dirt soft.
Right.
And then you wouldn't even know that there's like an actual pipeline going down there for the water to come out.
Exactly.
So that's my first introduction to any type of drainage and how drainage works when it comes to that. So when I had seen this, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's like draining and making sure that it's not, because it becomes root rot, right?
Yes,
and that's what a lot of times what ends up killing the plant.
Yes.
So with these plants, would you say you have to actually like water them often, or when is the right time to water them? Because I think one of the number one things that kills plants a lot is people actually overwatering.
Yeah, that's a great point and a good question too, because we do that. We tend to overwater and then we're shit out of luck with our plant. But so to answer your question in 20 different ways, when you are about to repot your plant, you're going to decide that you need a specific type of pot. So there's plastic pots and then there's terracotta pots, right?
Yes.
If you're an overwater, get a terracotta pot, because terracotta pots have I forget the word. They
absorb.
Yeah, they absorb the water, and it's better for drainage, right? So if you tend to overwater, do that. On top of doing that, make sure that your pots that you get have holes in the bottom to let that water out. And I was gonna say something else. The pots, the plastic pots, and the cool decorative ones that look nice in your house, those typically don't have drainage holes in the bottom. So not that I don't recommend them, I love them, so I do recommend. But what you can do when it comes to that is get whatever plastic pot or the terracotta pot.
If it came into something like this, right?
Yeah.
Like the actual pot that you purchased it in?
Yeah. And then you have a nice decorative pot, you can just sit it on top of it. That way, the pot that doesn't have the drainage hole, you can still take it out, do the watering, and then put it back in once it's done draining the water out.
Perfect. Okay, so then that would be your recommendation for people that are just doing it for aesthetic purposes, right? It's like if you don't really plan on repotting all the time, and which you shouldn't be repotting
often. No.
It's almost like a once a year, once every
year, every 2 years, and every 4,
depending on the plant, right?
Exactly.
Because I know, like, I'm not sure how long like these you've had before I got them from you,
Mm-hmm.
but I look at someone like, man, that's a lot of leaves. So this one for sure was
Yeah.
around for a cool minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's that was the other thing because so I told you earlier today that I actually took the one that I repotted at the house out of the terracotta one.
Oh yeah, you did tell me that.
But there was no like drainage on it, but I put it into one of these that we have right here.
The plastic pot.
Which there's two versions of this type, right? Like,
Yeah.
This is what I've noticed is that at the bottom there's the drainage, like a little filter that looks like a bunch of little holes.
Yeah, like.
And then you have
almost.
the plate that you end up putting in here.
Yep.
Which when people pour, then it could like kind of overflow out.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you have some that are similar to this one, right?
Yeah.
So this one doesn't have anything down here, but that's because it's in two pieces, right? So there's the water, like another little spout right here that you could actually pour the water into.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much like bottom feeding
Exactly.
the root system.
Exactly.
Which works in the same way, but you could actually do it from the bottom.
Yes.
Which, if you are a person that tends to overwater, I heard that this is probably your best bet to water from the bottom so that you're not. But you do got to make sure that the top part of the soil is still moist also, right?
I think it's like a 50-50 trade-off. If you're bottom watering, then make sure that you're watering from the top every now and again, because there's something about the nutrients that it's not mixing in or it's not getting from not watering on the top. So that's when you want to do that. And right now that you were talking about drainage, I remembered if you happen to have a plant that doesn't have drainage at the bottom, or a pot that doesn't have drainage holes, what I've done, and I only recommend this if you are willing to potentially lose the plant long term, if you're not a seasoned plant parent, is that what I've done in the past is I've gotten like small pebbles or rocks, and like your laundry situation, right, for the washer, you put rocks all the way at the bottom. You fill it kind of like maybe an inch, half an inch. Okay. And then you add the soil on top. That
so
way,
you're creating your own drainage system.
Exactly. So you guys can also do that too if, I don't know, if you really wanted that pot without the drainage hole. So you can do that.
Interesting. So one thing that I did talk to my mom about, because my mom is actually, and I remember I sent you that picture of my mom's wall in the back of the yard.
Yeah,
my
she has
mom,
succulents.
She lives in Bloomington. So if anyone knows where Bloomington is, Bloomington is kind of like desert, right?
Yeah,
so there's not that much.
Yeah.
There's not that much
move this over.
Moisture, I guess you would say.
No, it's really dry out here.
So
it's really dry. And windy.
She has a wall full of succulents, and she's propagated most of them, which is pretty cool. So I ended up getting her some succulents for Mother's Day.
Oh, yeah.
Because every time I say, "Oh, Mom, I'm gonna get you a plant," I suck at plants, especially if they belong indoor.
Yeah.
So when I went to her house and I looked at the plants that she did have indoor, I was like, "You just have them in water. There was no soil."
Wait, the succulents?
No, she had a pothos actually.
Okay.
So she ripped the pothos apart from the root, and then just put them in their own little containers, which is something that you can do,
right?
But there's
pothos especially too.
There's a big difference in that system, right? Because then people think, well, if you overwater in the pot, but then you got the water sitting in it, what's the difference? So the explanation I got, and you could correct me if what I heard was wrong.
No, yeah, let's see.
But is that you can't overwater, like, so the soil is actually trapping the water and creating like the moisture to just sit there, as opposed to where the water's sitting in a jar or a vase.
In a sense,
there's like it's like the way that the water and air circulate within it. It's a lot different. Like the soil suffocates the water,
exactly,
which creates root rot.
Exactly, which and to go back to the whole mixing your soil with orchid bark, that would help to remove that from essentially happening, which it could still happen, but orchid bark in a soil setting would help so that it's not creating any root rot or just trapping in moisture, and then it's essentially creating mold too. You know
So
what I mean?
what kind of plants would you say need that type of? Because not every plant needs that type of drainage, right?
Right. So there are plants like, like more tropical plants. Tropical indoor houseplants like monsteras, like calatheas, plants with foliage that's super bright and very attractive. Those need a different type of soil, and they do not prefer orchid bark because they do like to be moist. So, so those types of plants, like for example, the calathea with the super vibrant foliage, they live and you have to think about where these plants live in the world. So, for example, again, those calatheas, they live in the rainforest,
So
always moist, always wet, always humid. So
you kind of have to
create,
like mimic that.
Yes,
Which is
exactly.
why, and you mentioned this to Ricky the other day, when we were talking about the plants.
Yeah.
It's like it's actually good that you take these ones that are very tropical into the restroom with
Yes,
you, so
yeah,
that they
Ricky
get
mentioned
that they get that humidity.
Exactly.
And if you don't have, if you that's like the frugal way of dealing with that.
Right.
If you want to like keep them in there, bring them in and out every
into
so
the
often.
bathtub or in the bathroom.
But if people don't want to put their plants in the bathroom,
Right.
what else can they do?
So you can buy a humidifier, and if if you aspire to be this amazing plant parent, you'll probably have several. Thanks. You'll have several humidifiers in several rooms, depending on how many plants you have. So I have 2 humidifiers in my house, and I feel like I need 5.
Question: did you have these humidifiers before you had your son?
Yes and no, and I'm gonna let you in on a secret. I actually put one of the humidifiers in my baby registry for the plants.
That was a finesse.
So I'm shameless.
That
I
was-
don't care. I said, "Oh, babies need humidifiers, but so do these plants." So I actually
Do you have any plants like near DeLuca?
Yeah. Actually, the entire house is plant friendly, I guess you could say. The only place that doesn't have a plant in it, I would say, is the kitchen, because there's no light in there, and it makes me really sad because the kitchen would look super dope with plants, but I can't have any in there because I don't get enough light. And then the master bathroom that has no windows, so I can't put any plants in there either, and it makes me, those 2 places are like the places, not that I spend a lot of time in the restroom, but you know what
everybody, because if you eat good in the kitchen, you're gonna be in the bathroom later.
Exactly. And so those are the 2 places that I can't have plants in there.
Don't be ashamed of it. It's okay.
No.
It's okay.
And so, but there's research that has been found that the more plants that you have, it's actually a lot better for your home environment, and it helps purify the air. I think the ZZ plants are one of those, and the pothos are one that helps in air purification.
And see, that's the thing that I had noticed, and I was telling you, like, this one. Ooh, look at that one.
Oh yeah, she's done.
Like,
I'm on which one?
It's right here.
She's done.
It's right here.
It's done, and it was easy. It's just
You know what though? And that's the thing. So shout out to Target, because while
Target,
when we were
sponsor
planning
us.
all this,
Yeah.
it just so happened that here we'll break this one apart, because this is I think one that it's one of the easiest ones to have, but there's a thing that grows a little bit different at these plants than any of the other plants, and I don't want to call it the wrong thing, but the rhizomes,
The bulbs?
yeah, they look like little potatoes that grow on the inside, and that little potato-looking thing is a thing that is actually absorbing and holding all the water and the moisture in order to which it's like a reservoir,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like that's why
Which
these
makes so much sense to how they live so long.
is so this thing could be like completely dry, right?
Yeah.
And I could actually I could feel like 3 of them right here.
Yeah.
And
I'm so excited for you to check it out.
from what I heard, it's okay. And I like to hear and read things before I come talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be like, so what's this? I don't want to be the person that's like just asking nothing but questions, and you're gonna be like, man, get out of here, Ricky.
No, that's
Like,
not
you know
true.
what? Why did I give you these plants? It's like, let me do the research on this shit. But one of the reasons why I was like, let me bring this one so we could repot. One is
Yeah.
you could actually feel. What are they? What are they called?
I think that's what they're called. But
Rhizomes?
I only call them bulbs, but I think you're
So
right about that.
you could feel the little bulbs actually protruding out of the pot.
Yeah.
And if you look at a pot and you hold it sideways, obviously it's round. But these, if you look at it at a certain angle, you'll start seeing like the actual
Like how it's
protrusion
bulging
of
out.
it, and you could feel it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could feel them.
But
the one thing I noticed was like, so this one is I believe the oldest, or like, yeah, the oldest stem.
How funny
right?
that you can tell that.
Yeah, and then obviously I have this one it's a little bit younger, but it has one coming off the side of it, and then we have a whole nother little baby right there.
I love the growth.
And then we have another one on the inside hiding somewhere.
Yeah.
But I was just like, all right, well, those little dudes are gonna need more room,
Right?
because
right.
once
So
it starts expanding from the outside,
Mm-hmm.
this is gonna need more room, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I'm like manos de fierro. I end up like just breaking things. Yeah.
You know, when I first got a ZZ, the bulb was bulging on the top, and I didn't know what it was. And at first I thought, oh my God, there's a fungus growing on this thing. Oh yeah, it has some nice little roots on there. She's ready.
So on
She's ready.
On this one, do you break this one up also?
Yes.
Do you always break up your soil, right?
Yeah.
And this one, I think you could actually separate it.
Oh yeah. Go for it.
The way I did that
So
one, look at.
right now that I'm so glad that you're doing this, and that I'm seeing that for that one, luckily it's easy for the soil to come apart. I would definitely recommend, whenever you guys are ready to repot your plants, do it when the soil is dry. That way, it's easier to separate the soil from the roots, because I've definitely done it where they're stuck.
You don't ever use the soil that's in it.
As much as
some of it?
possible. As much as possible. I mean, sometimes it's unavoidable, and you end up with a like a clump of the old soil,
Oh,
and
that
that's
guy's
fine.
about to fall off. Don't fall off, little buddy.
Did it break?
I don't know.
Just break it off.
I think so.
Just break it. Just do it.
But you know what we can do?
Propagate.
So this one is actually going to go in a little thing by itself.
I love this. I love that you thought about that.
But see,
I
so
try to save all the leaves.
so
Everything.
I don't know if they could see that, but there's actually
Is that the bulb?
Little papita right there with all the roots growing out of it. That little papita right there is what's holding all the water, right? And that's why we're able to break it up.
Oh, you know what Cynthia just said? And I need to try this out. I've never tried it. She says that she puts a small grow light in her restroom so that she can put her pothos in there. And that's a definite good alternative if you have like, for example, you said that you wanted to have plants in your studio that had no windows, and we could even do it in this studio. I don't know why we haven't, but we can buy grow lights.
Not next episode, next plantita episode.
Yes, we're gonna have grow lights.
Shout out to LA Amy, because
LA Amy, hey
the
girl.
Plantgasm episode.
Yes,
These are the Plantgasms.
So yeah, you know what? I don't know why we didn't think about that. And Ricky has said a whole bunch of times, like, these poor plants, they stay here and they're in the dark. And my mother-in-law yells at her because the poor plants are in here and they don't get any light or air or any kind of nurturing environment. So we're going to have to get us some grow lights in here.
I'm down. I'm down to be like,
look around.
Just start throwing shit up in.
Let's just, you know what, this is going to become our,
you know what's crazy? So doing this and like slightly, so now I'm understanding what you're saying as far as doing it when it's a little bit more dry.
Yeah.
Is that as delicate as I'm trying to be with it, it's still breaking apart into separate.
Oh yeah,
separate pieces, which is fine, right?
Yeah. That's totally cool. You can separate, and then you're gonna put it back together.
And I only ask because again, I'm manos de fierro. Anything I touch ends up breaking, because it's just like I'm not trying to do too much.
No, you're doing really good. And
plus, I'm in front of the master, and she's like,
I'm not judging you, I swear. But oh my God, what are you doing? No,
please do judge me.
No, not at all. One of the other things too that happens inevitably right now that you're saying that manos de fierro is that sometimes when you are separating the soil, the roots can break, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, as long
your
as it
plant
has,
is gonna survive.
because and not all of them are not all the roots are strong, right?
Exactly.
Like some of them,
survival of the fittest,
I mean,
right?
you could actually tell like how this one is a lot thicker than the rest of these ones.
Yeah.
So that one,
Yeah.
you really gotta rip it off to actually fuck it up, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you should be just fine. Nothing's gonna happen to your plant.
So,
It'll live.
With these, like, so because they do kind of break apart really easy, is it like you could kind of like rearrange it within the pot yourself?
Yeah,
anyways,
exactly. Right? Exactly. So let's say that suddenly you wanted the leaves to face another direction, then you can manipulate it to do that.
Now on this one, I noticed that there's like a little dry outer part on it, like a shed piece.
You can try lightly pulling it.
What's that cause of?
It was the shell from where the plant was, or like the leaf. So
so it just kind of took it with it.
So
I didn't do nothing wrong with it.
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
No. It just
all right.
No, that's just like it. Imagine it being a snake and it just shedded its skin, and now that's just like the leftover from when it was smaller. So you're good.
So with this one, I'm able to just
like put it in there so that it still has like an even amount of room to grow around, and that it's not being suffocated. And
I have 4 separate little plants out of 1.
We're watching Ray repot. This is awesome.
You guys are watching me. I'm fucking nervous. I'm about to. Is Ray nervous. What? Hold on. What is Benny saying?
Ray is used to getting the blame.
I'm like Vinny. We both get blamed for everything.
Let me check in to see what did we call them? The freaks.
The freaks.
The freaks.
Shout out to our freaks.
Freaks. What are the freaks saying?
Man. So this is like.
Otto says she overwaters.
Yeah.
I get that.
No.
Oh, Amy isn't on today.
Otto has a dope yard. I've been to Otto's house, and her yard is really cool. So I would like to know, like, is she overwatering the outside plants or is she overwatering the inside plants? Because there's somewhat of a difference, right? Like,
I think so. I wish I could be better at outdoor plant care, and I'm not. I've killed everything that's outdoor. Oddly enough, at first I used to kill succulents. Now that's the only thing that I can have alive.
And how easy is it to, she said her inside ones.
Oh, her inside, yeah.
How easy or hard is it to kill succulents? Is it one of those things where you're like just over caring?
Exactly. It's one of those things that we said earlier, that you get a plant and all of a sudden you want to over nurture and you're coddling and you're like, oh my God, my little plant, what's wrong? And yeah, I've killed a whole bunch of succulents, but now I've learned my lesson. I'm like, oh, I can keep these alive. They don't belong in full sun. They belong in the shade.
And one thing
less water.
that I'm noticing here is like, you have to not be afraid to tuck in the root, right?
Yes. Yeah. You have to just kind of be a little assertive and just start. And it's hard because everything's loose. That's what she said.
It's like throwing a hot dog down the hallway.
and so you kind of just have to be aggressive.
Wait a minute. We're not supposed to get along. Ricky Lee's not here.
Oh, sorry, Ricky.
We're not enjoying ourselves, Ricky. We promise.
But I mean, if we are, can you blame us?
I mean, shit, we're cool.
Yeah. So yeah, just you start kind of building with when you start adding the soil in there, and that'll help you get a little more just weight on the roots so that it stops moving so much. So you're doing good. Good job.
Thanks.
Round of applause, everyone. Round of applause.
Actually, I'm about to take this little pot.
Yes, yeah, just do that. And I don't know about you, but there are some people in the plant community that are very much like, no, you wear gloves and you do this.
Soy de rancho. I don't do that shit.
I don't either. And like,
I'm from the hood, the hood ranch, not Rancho Cucamonga.
Right, no, like, no offense to the Ranchonians.
Again, if anybody knows what Bloomington looks like, it's like hood and paisa at the same time.
Yes.
So we had caballos and lowriders.
Yeah.
In our neighborhood.
Seriously. And so, you can't treat a plant the same way with gloves on. So I don't use them.
What's the purpose in that though?
You know what? I think, and I don't know the research, but I think it has something to do with the nutrients and the ingredients and things that are in the soil that you don't want to have on your
Like
hands.
toxins. But if you're working with stuff that's more organic, you don't have to worry about that, right?
I guess not. I mean,
Because
I'm not.
I mean, for me, at the end of the day, I feel like if you do this in your yard, what's toxic in your yard, right? Like that means you're putting stuff in your ground.
Right.
So, I
And
mean, I
you're
get it. I
inhaling
get that.
it.
I
Like
guess
you're living in that environment.
like
right?
an excessive amount of anything is not good for you, obviously. But
Exactly. I think the main thing is.
how's that?
I think it looks good. The main thing I feel like for soil and touching it is just wash your hands after, because obviously you don't want to get this on your eyes or on your face, or you don't want to eat it.
So this little guy, how do we propagate him? Does he have enough actually from coming? Because I feel like there's actually a little root there.
Oh yeah, there is.
So how this one is just water for the meantime, right?
Yeah.
And how often do you change? Do you change the water? And if you do, how often?
I do. I change my water about every week or two. Sometimes I go on 3 weeks changing the water. But you should change it. That way it's not sitting in this dirt.
You know what I'm gonna do with this one? Actually, we're gonna propagate it.
Okay.
And we're gonna put it in here.
Ooh, yeah. I think it would do well here, and especially after we get our grow light.
Yeah.
That'll be cool.
I mean, that's a tax write-off. Mota Ricky, that's
Yes. Listen, we're gonna bill you. Put it in there.
What other plant do we have?
So then we have two anthuriums. Now I have to look at you.
We got a couple of Aretha Franklins.
Aretha Franklin. Oh my god, I can't even say that. Aretha Franklin in the house. So it's funny. These are both the same type of plant. One is just a little bit or much smaller than the other. And both of them are root bound. Both of them are rooting from the top. This one, though, is in much better condition, which I'm shocked that it's not yellowing like the bigger one. Because we said that you see how these yellow spots are due to the root rot. The root bound. But the same thing is happening, and the leaves are almost perfect.
So that means that one's just actually absorbing the water a lot better.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything different, or do you feel like you're doing anything different in that one as opposed to that one over there?
I'm going to be honest with you. Both of these, I've treated them fairly the same. I've only had them for about a month, maybe less, almost a month. And they were both in mint condition until they weren't, because that one started yellowing and I was like, oh shit. And I see the roots and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's time. And so it was actually because of this larger anthurium that I decided, let me look at the other plants. And then I realized that all of them were like that. And I think that's I think it's a seasonal thing. I don't know if it's like the supplier that I get, the vendor that I get these from, if the wholesaler or whatever intentionally sells the plants rooted like that. Because I'm starting to notice that, a lot of these plants are root bound, or I don't know if it's just like it's the season and then they decide, okay, you know what, we need to get these out now.
So then that would actually add more work to their processing though too, right? Like having to repot everything, which in turn could also make the price cost a little bit higher, because why are these ones more than these ones? Well, because we already repotted those ones are ready to thrive, where these ones, you have to do the work for it a little bit more.
Exactly.
So it's like moving into a new house. Like you could move into the model home with all the accessories and everything in it, or you move into the one that you have to supply.
Exactly.
So that makes sense.
It's a give and take, and I guess
Dude, look how much
right?
that's a lot of freaking roots.
Yeah, and there are like succulents. Their root system is very tiny. I don't know if you've ever repotted or accidentally dropped a succulent, but when you start taking them apart or repotting them, they're super tiny and
really?
they're very fragile. So I don't know that I ever want
You know what?
to
Let
move one.
me grab the ones that, because
Oh yeah,
we mentioned last time, like I actually
your
ended up
foxtail.
getting some for the backyard or the side of the house.
Yeah, we were talking about how, and this is when I realized that Ray is in, because he's over here sending me photos of these exotic, what I think are exotic agaves. I'm like, what does he want me to get?
I ended up being at the stadium with Ricky and your husband for one of the games. So we had a band there.
Yeah.
And while we were standing there in the general area where we perform, and I don't really notice these things when I'm performing because I'm performing, right? So I'm just like, which one do you need? This one?
I think so.
Do you need?
Oh yeah, please. Yeah, so you were at the stadium a few weeks ago, right? And I get this message.
You need more or less?
No, like this is good. And then
So I end up looking. I'm like, yo, this is really dope. And of course, obviously at the stadium, this is a 1 gallon, correct?
Yes, it's a 1
So
gallon.
this one's a smaller. It's kind of, I guess you would say it's new.
Yeah.
So it's a little baby. But the one that I seen at the stadium was massive. Yeah. Like if we put it on here, I'm pretty sure
it would cover big.
It would cover the table.
Yeah.
So I was like, Nat, can you find this? So this is actually the foxtail agave.
Super pretty.
Which I didn't know that there's actually different versions of the agaves.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about this is how they actually bloom, and they bloom like flowers. So it's just like, but the other thing that I noticed, see, I can see the roots on this one too. The other thing that I noticed is that they don't just grow from the ground, like flush to the ground. They actually have like a stem.
So it's like almost like a palm-like thing, right? It grows slightly out.
Yeah.
Like it curves a little too. So listen, once you had texted me and told me, hey, can you get a hold of that plant? I was like, oh shit, where am I going to find this? But then suddenly when I'm driving, all I see is foxtail agaves on every commercial building. I'm like, oh.
And because
I see it now.
It's the ease of care for them. Like you don't you could actually probably drive on the freeway, like we're in some of the new construction areas where they have like remodeled like areas of the freeway, like where they do new landscaping. You'll see a bunch of these, and I've seen like huge ones where it's like if you stood next to them, they'd probably be like up to your shoulder height, you know. And it's just like
they're massive.
If we could do something like this, because again, my backyard gets all the sun.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so.
Ooh, the summertime.
We don't ever really have, like, the greenage looking nice because it's just beating on everything and tearing everything up. So it's just like, you know what? We're going to put these and we could put them in the walkway or do whatever you want. And there's, again, you pretty much just water them until they're, like, you don't, they're pretty much got to be just dry.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then once they're dry, give it another month till you water them. And I think that's I feel as though California is moving towards a more
deserty,
desert climate friendly landscape.
You know what we're going to have to start doing? We're going to have to go to Joshua Tree and actually pull some Joshua Tree. I wonder if that's illegal. Because that's a landmark.
So I actually learned this recently, that there's a big protest in Joshua Tree because builders, real estate companies, blah, 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 they want to build on that land, and they're starting to take those Joshua trees down.
Oh, really?
And those Joshua trees are thousands of years old. Actually, broke my heart when I heard this, because I think they were saying something like as old as like the dinosaur age. Like they've lived to see life.
Wow.
And so now these, the community is getting together to say, don't do this. Don't take these Joshua trees down.
You know what? And before I probably would have been like, that's lame. Just do it. But it's just like, one thing I started noticing with like getting into this is these things have life.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
And
it's a living thing.
I've walked in on Ricky Lee like talking to the plants and singing and playing music.
Good. Yeah.
So I'm like, I was like, you know what? That's not actually a bad idea. So
Yeah.
again, like I said before, like, and even my wife, she's like, "Do you sing to the plants?" I'm like, "Don't make fun of me." Yes.
Yeah.
Not, I don't personally sing, but while I'm like just going through, I open up the blinds, make sure that they get some good light,
Yeah.
make sure I'm so while I'm doing that, I'm actually like, I got my J Cole on, right?
Yeah.
And I always tell people this is my daily is J Cole,
Yeah.
Nipsey, and coffee, right?
Yeah.
I even got
your
a playlist on Apple. This is Nip Cole and coffee, and that's
Post
all
it
like
and share it.
I'm gonna have to, yeah, I'll send it to you. So that's all I do is like I'll check all the plants, and while I'm doing it, I have my little Bluetooth attached to it, and it's like, and this way they get the real bass. They get like it's not
they
just
get
like
all of it, and they
it's
want to
not-
dance.
Yeah, it's not phone
Yeah.
music. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, like this is from a stereo system.
Yeah,
That's dope.
exactly. No, you have to do all of those things. They are alive, and they do change in their environment. So, and that's another thing too, is that whenever you get plants, don't get offended if they just don't thrive. For me, I'm learning that monsteras don't live in my home. Like, they're always dying.
So I sent you the picture of the one that I revived, and recently,
Yes, the Swiss cheese monstera.
yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what happened, but I went to go look at it, and all of a sudden, there was a couple branches just sitting on the pot, and I was like, "Oh man, what happened here?"
Yeah.
Like this, like I realized, like, yeah, I really do like plants
I'm so proud of you for
because
that.
I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
that's not cool. Like, what? Like, my heart, like, I was like, but
It's like, wow, I did this. I helped you
yeah,
live.
you know, but then,
Yeah.
so I was like, you know what? I helped get this to where it's at. I can't
Right.
just let it. So I ended up just throwing it at Don Julio, just sitting in like a bottle, just sitting. So I just put water in it, and it's just been sitting in there, just doing its own thing.
Nice.
I might end up like taking a little snip back of it a little bit more
Okay.
to see if we could get like the roots start coming out. But
Oh.
and with something like that, or even something like the ZZ, how long would you say it would be the process for the roots to start coming out?
Like, how long would it take?
Yeah.
Usually, I think it depends. Maybe about 2 weeks. I say about 2 weeks, you should start seeing some kind of root, no matter, even if it's just a tiny little poke coming out.
So this is what I'm gonna do.
Let's see.
I should have brought it today. I'm gonna bring you
Okay.
that bottle. And one of them is just a stem, and
Okay.
there is no node on it.
Oh, okay.
On one of them, the other one does have the node. So I know for sure that one will at some point. Look at this one. This one, the soil is like really loose because there's not much of it. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, squeeze it out. Ooh,
but
yeah.
you can still see.
Yeah, the roots around it.
And this one's a little wet. I think my son may have. I got my son into watering,
Oh, good.
which
Good.
I believe this is actually his.
Yeah,
So I let him choose one, and I believe this is the one.
that he chose.
But he may have watered this one because it's really wet.
Oh, it's okay. You
But-
can still manage to get whatever you can off of it, and then whatever's
What's
left.
the
on
the
it.
proper way of grabbing them? You grab them from like the neck, and then just squeeze the panza.
And just kind of start, and you could even give it a little shake too. If it was drier, you could probably.
That's the other question I was going to ask you. People always talk about shaking their plants. Like I started because my Instagram looks like that now.
You're on Plantstagram and
I'm on
Plant Talk.
Plantstagram, yeah. So because of that,
Yeah.
I was going to actually ask you that. Now that we're here, might as well. What's your thought process on that? Like, what's the purpose of the shaking?
I think it's funny, first of all, that people are doing that. I've done it too because I'm like, well, if this is going to fucking help stimulate growth on my plant, then I'm going to do it. I've mainly seen the shaking happen on, what are they? They're the fiddle leaf fig plants. Those really tall ones with the large leaves.
Oh, okay,
Like
yeah.
they're almost like the bigger than 2 hand sizes.
Yeah.
And people do that to those plants because in their natural environment, they get a lot of like hurricanes, winds. I think they're also in the rainforest. So when people are shaking them from the stem, it's so that supposedly, right? It's so that they can root more into the soil. It's almost like you're building their muscles. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So when you're giving them the little whirl around and the shake, it makes them more resilient. Supposedly. Does it work? I have no idea. Do I do it? Have I done it? Yes. And in fact, actually, my fiddle leaf is slowly dying. So I don't know.
Which that's like the other thing that I've been seeing too is people like, it's okay if your plant dies.
Yeah, it's totally okay.
Like
I've learned that.
Don't
it's
get
okay.
so attached to where you're just like, I was super attached just because, again, I explained to you what that Monstera was because I showed you the picture.
Yeah.
And if you remember the picture,
Yeah,
it was like
dying.
burnt. It was like
it was dead. Actually,
and
I feel like
yo,
you resurrected it.
I was like, Nat, what do we do with this? She's like, just cut everything off.
Yeah.
So I did, and I was just like, all right. I was like, but then that's when I did my research on the nodes and where to cut in between certain nodes and making sure that there's enough room on this one or that one so that once it starts growing, it's strong, right? So I was like, all right, cool, let's do that. And then when spring hit, I was like, yo, check it out. You're like Swiss cheese.
I seriously, when we were talking about that plant and how you took a picture of it and you showed it to me, I really thought that you were going to throw it away. And I was like, no, Ray, just let's experiment. Let's just keep it and see what happens. I'm pretty sure if I think it is what I think it is, it's gonna come back.
So you had an idea that it was gonna be a Monstera?
Yeah.
And how did you figure that?
Just because of the way that the vine was growing. And just the way that the plant looked, I was like, no, this might be that type of plant. And sure enough, it came out that way. So I'm glad that you were able to experiment with it. But now remind me, did you say that plant, you cut it and you propagated some of it? Or what happened?
No, what I propagated was actually what I did this week. And that was because of the stems that did fall off of it.
Right.
I ended up just putting it in that tequila bottle. But what happened with those ones is I just pretty much cut everything, but I left enough. So
on
there's
the actual pot?
Yeah. So I didn't take anything out. Like I didn't repot or nothing. I just let it be. When I cut it, I made sure that there was like at least 2 nodes hanging out of the soil.
Oh, okay.
This way, like there was, for me, my thought process was like, well, it's
root.
because if it's just in the soil, it's not gonna catch any like sunlight or anything, and there's already these stems here, so might as well just leave it there. So when I did that, I just let it be. A couple days went by after I had ended up doing that, and I noticed that the soil was still super soaked. So I was like, what the heck? So it was in one of those containers, how you were actually explaining earlier with, like if it comes in one of these.
The plastic containers?
Yeah. And it was actually in a decorative pot. So when I took it out, that decorative pot had all the water just sitting in there.
Oh,
and it was all the rainwater from...
When we had that massive rainstorm. Yeah.
So I was just like, oh, crap. Let me empty it out. So I emptied it out so that it could eventually just dry out. And it didn't dry out completely. It actually just like, it got pretty much to like where this is.
Just a little moist and humid.
And then I was like, oh shit. There's like leaves growing out of it. Yeah. And then you start looking at, because the stems grow out of the nodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once I started seeing it, and then one got longer and it just kept growing. But then when it was growing, I was like, well, is anything going to come out of it? And boom.
Yeah.
And it went from being a leaf this big with nothing on it to ended up, like, I think a week later, ended up getting a little bit bigger and then creating its own holes.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, what the hell? Why does it have holes in it?
Yeah.
But Monstera's, I guess the characteristic of a Monstera is for it to, as it grows, all the leaves that are coming from the bottom, the big ones actually create the holes for themselves for the sunlight to go through
for the bottom
and shine on, which the lily doesn't do, and that's probably why the little guys on the bottom aren't flourishing the way the ones on top, right?
Exactly. Isn't it funny how nature works? I think it's so wild to think about, like, the plant is making holes for the bottom of the leaves to thrive. It's crazy to me. Oh, look, Alerma's on here. Hey, girl.
Hey, Lerma.
Nice to see you. Happy Friday.
It says I'm a full plant lover. I am a full plant lover, which ironically is
Vinny,
like...
don't hate, okay? We have to have something for ourselves here.
If I ever see Vinny, I'm taking him a plant.
Yeah, we have to. We must.
And I'm going to just like, see, because pot is smaller,
Mm-hmm.
and the way these plants are growing, these leaves are growing. This is just like me improvising.
So, hey, real quick, because I don't want to forget this. That right now that you're talking about that Swiss cheese, I just learned about there's this. It's like a paste. Well, it's a paste. It's called cakey paste, and it's a hormone stimulator. Okay, I just bought this thing and I started doing it to all of my plants. Okay,
It's a like, so how do you apply it?
so what it is, it's almost like the consistency of like coconut oil but thicker. What is that one thing? Like Vaseline? Vaseline? Jesus, sorry, it took me a second. So it's that thick, okay? And it's even that color. And I wonder if it's that. No, it doesn't smell like that. But anyway, so you get this Vaseline looking thing, the paste, and you get a Q-tip, and you're gonna apply it to the nodes of your plant, and that's gonna create hormone stimulation, and it'll grow new leaves. Not faster, but it'll grow where it hasn't grown before. Wow. So, like for example,
it will fill it out more.
Yes. So like with the pothos, you see these little nodes that are on here. So pothos are known to do this. And right now, for the life of me, I can't remember why, but you'll get
like these.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what the cakey paste will do. It'll stimulate it so that more will grow out
off to the side. Like the side. So like this one, this little baby has one growing out the side of him too.
Yeah.
So there's actually going to be 3 coming out of that one, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And so pothos, for whatever reason, after a while, they start getting super viney, but then they won't produce any more leaves. Oh. People tend to cut them back, and then that stimulates new growth.
Yeah.
Or what I learned was you get this cakey paste, and you scrape a little bit of that node off.
So I seen something like that.
And then you rub the cakey paste on there, and that stimulates and makes it all fun. And supposedly it's supposed to grow. I'm still waiting. It takes I think 6 to 12 weeks for it to happen. Oh, wow. But I'll share it with you so that you can try it on your plant.
Even like when we're out of season, it would still be.
I would say yes, and here's why. So and there's reasons why you should and why you shouldn't. You can. And this goes for fertilizer too, right? You can add growth products to your plant, your indoor plants especially, because you're already putting your plants in their best environment to thrive all year long. Yeah. Right? So there isn't an off season technically.
So like the type of soil that you use. So like when people go to like Home Depot or Lowe's, wherever they get their soil from, and it says indoor, that's formulated to be able to work year round.
I think so.
Okay, that makes sense.
And all year round, but that's a lie because it'll say fertilize for up to 6 months, and then that's where you're like, oh, okay, well now I have to add fertilizer on my own externally via fertilizing solution or other things, so that you don't have to be changing your soil every 6 months, right?
So there's no mastering this.
I think no, there is mastering this. There's botanists and there's all kinds of people that dedicate their lives to this.
But I'm saying like because even those people that have mastered it, I'm assuming they killed plenty.
Oh yeah, for sure, right? Like, for sure.
Like I'm not perfect. No. I just fucked up a lot, so I know.
Yeah, you know better, right?
So I know better, but
for sure.
Because I think each plant has its own characteristic, right? Yeah, so we're like, if we're looking at this Aretha Franklin versus this Aretha Franklin. This one does, I think maybe just one leaf has a slight brown tip to it, as opposed to this one has brown spots. Yeah. But you're doing the same thing to both.
Exactly.
So the mastering or the fact that you can't really master too much is because each plant has its own characteristic, right?
Yeah, they all have a mind of their own. They're like children.
Yeah.
They're not the same. They don't all...
Like your kids are different than my kids.
Right.
So the way you parent DeLuca
would be
probably
very
wouldn't
different.
work for the way my kids would run all over everybody. I'm sorry.
Listen,
I
mine's
love-
still too young, but let's not make him too innocent just yet.
I love
Your
my
kids are
kids,
good.
but my kids are they're like their dad. They know how to put on the face to be like,
I'm cool.
I'm cool.
I don't do nothing wrong.
but as soon as you get to know me,
tears, little
I'm
tears.
ripping through it.
But I'm sure like they're also at that age where like everything is fun and a game, and also they want to poke and challenge, right? I assume. I don't know.
You know what? My son, I think now has realized,
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, I can't test my dad no more. Once in a while he'll do it, but he used to always do it. And I'm like, bro, I don't
Especially
know.
because he's older now, and you're probably treating him a little more different, right?
You know what? I always thought about that. Like,
Yeah.
my daughter's 6. She's gonna be 7. My son's gonna be 12.
Yeah.
So it's just like I remember when my son was 7.
Oh.
I was like just cool with them. I was treating them like a 7-year-old, I guess you would say, right? Like I was tough on them. I think I'm always tough on my children,
Yeah.
obviously for specific reasons, each
Right.
one individually.
Right.
But now that he's getting older, I do fall back on it a lot more,
On
right?
being
On being
tough.
as tough. I think it's more so like I pick my moments to be that tough with him. One is like I know for sure he'll remember from this point on.
okay.
For sure he'll remember how I'm parenting him, right?
Okay.
But then 2 is just like I'm trusting him to be mature enough. And if he ends up slacking off or doing something that he's not, then my approach isn't going to be how it was when he was a little bit younger, which I did it in reverse. Like I feel like a lot of people kind of baby when they're younger because they're little, they're babies, but it's just like, no, I'd rather be tough on him now so that when he's older,
There's a respect.
There's a respect, and he also can enjoy being a teenager because I'm gonna treat him with the respect as him now becoming a man. You know what I mean? So that's I kind of reversed, I guess, the psyche of how people do it.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and it's working. I assume, like I know there's still like
quirks and little things that you have to work through with him.
He still favors his mom in a lot of things, as he should, right?
Yeah.
But he also gets like, yeah, Dad, like I was talking this and that, like, so he's starting to open up more about things.
Okay.
And in return, I'm learning how just to listen.
Yeah.
Like,
good for you.
I don't need to fucking say something to him.
Yeah.
Now, if it's like out of bounds, and I'm gonna
like, hey, mijo, not that one.
yeah,
though.
I'm gonna put him back in there, but I'm not gonna be like, well, that's dumb, or you like don't like. It's like, nah, you're gonna learn, you're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
So you might as well just do your thing, bro.
Yeah. You know what? I can appreciate that approach. I think that I feel as though we don't give teenagers, kids, the credit that they deserve. Like, I feel that we
dumb them down.
Yeah, and we treat them like children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't understand that they're also people.
Yeah.
And that they have thoughts of their own. And I feel like if we want to get, and I don't think people say this enough, especially in older generations, that we should be able to let them have, for us to respect them so that they can respect us in return.
Yeah.
And then but people just think, oh no, they don't
kids.
respect anything. They don't know.
You got to teach them how to respect. It's like, well, you teach them by doing it.
By respecting them,
Yeah.
right? Like, you got to just give them their space, that you have to understand their boundaries and the whole nine. But I don't think people realize that. I think especially in our culture. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like do as I say.
Yeah.
Not as I do, but it's like technically that's a cop out.
Yeah.
Like do as I say, not as I do. Like why? Because you're fucking up.
Yeah.
Like do as
because now I'm gonna question you, and now I'm judging you, and now I'm not gonna respect you.
Like do as I do too, because
right.
I'm being an example.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right. I think so. I don't know. Parenting is a whole other thing. Plants are a little bit easier.
You know what? That's a lot of fucking roots.
Yeah, this one was very rooty. And you know what? This one was a little bit more moist. So it's taking me a little bit to get all of these soil.
See, you go in there like ruthlessly.
Yeah.
But see, your hands don't look like this.
Yeah, they're a little delicate.
Yeah,
hands.
like it looks like you're being rough, but you're probably not. Me,
yeah.
I'm just fucking shit up.
No. Yeah.
But
And it's like we mentioned earlier, right? It's like you can afford to lose a couple of roots. It's not gonna damage the plant. You're not gonna wake up the next morning, unless you do. Then don't come to us. You're not gonna find the plant like drooped over, yellow, like lifeless. You'll be fine.
You just need to get like a whole cleanse in your house.
Yeah. Now it's like, oh shoot, what did you do?
It ain't nothing to do with anything, but you got some shit going on in your house.
Right. You know what what's worth mentioning right now too, while I'm doing this, is don't be scared to cut.
You know what? So
don't be scared to cut. It'll actually produce more growth for the plant. Especially if the leaf is already dying.
There's one that you gave me, and I took it down to where there's I think only like 2 leaves left, and I forgot which one it was. It's kind of like a waxy one that had like white and green.
Waxy, white, and green.
Yeah.
Like an evergreen, maybe?
I don't know what it was. I'm going to be honest with you.
Wait,
I forgot.
Describe it again?
Let me see if I have a picture of it in my phone. Only because I was like, yo, all these are getting brown. So I was like...
Well, you look that up. I'm going to...
They're not in... They weren't in a space where they're being burnt or they're getting too much... White? This one.
Oh, yeah. That's actually... a pothos, like a joy pothos.
Okay.
It's a variety of a pothos.
So this is the one of all the ones that I got from you.
Yeah.
I'm just fucking killing it. I don't know.
The leaves are a little more fragile on that one too. They're like paper.
With something like this, because I don't know if anybody, I don't think they'll be able to see that. But the characteristic of it is it's pretty much like it's a green and white leaf.
Yeah. But
for some reason, I'm getting a lot of brown and like wilt out of it, and that's the thing. I
wonder why.
So that was what it looks like now. I cut most of that down to where it's like only two good leaves left.
Oh, really?
So I was just like, you know what? When I did that, I was also just thinking like, you know what? I got to do this the same way I did the Monstera. And if I could bring a Monstera that was burnt out back, then we're going to do that with this. And the only
sometimes you got to experiment.
Yeah, the only way to do it is to do it from the bottom.
Yep.
Which kind of like what you're doing right now is just like, you know what? Because at some point, this is going to grow back out of that one. Yeah. At some point, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
these are so cool the way they sit.
Aren't they?
Like they just naturally like owl shape. It's like a little umbrella.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah, these are you know what? These we're not Aretha Franklins.
The Aretha Franklins.
They're very popular during Mother's Day, and I didn't know how much the mothers love these on Mother's Day.
Really?
They were a hit. And
hold on. She said, talk to. You know what? Hey, Lerma, you're judging, bro. You're judging. I don't know if I like that right now.
We are loving on these plants.
I talk to all my plants. I talk to all my plants.
Which shout out to Alerma. She's always buying plants from me too. So thanks, girl.
You know what it is?
Support the cause.
I'm not gonna lie, Anita. When I see you buy something, I'm like, you know what? I'm about to fucking go buy something now.
It's a thing.
Like there's like this secret competition that she doesn't even know.
Well, me too.
You buy something? Now I'm gonna go buy something. So I don't know. I don't know if Anita. So Anita just came in not too long ago, so I don't know if she's seen these ones. But you got one of these, homie? Because I got the foxtail agave.
Yes.
You got to get one of these.
Ray came through and said, "Get me one of these."
I was like, you know what? I like your inventory, but I need something that's not in it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you totally went in there, and I was like, oh my God, where am I gonna find this type of plant?
And one of the cool things.
One
of the cool things is for me, and this is what I had explained to Natalie is, I like supporting the people that are within our community, right? And I don't mean like just Latinos. I just mean in general, like. Yeah. A lot of the clothes that I wear, it comes from a lot of my homies that have their own brands. Yeah. Right?
That's good. That's important.
And then maybe besides all my shoes.
Yeah. That's just a little bit different story.
That's different. Unless I have a homie that knows how to make a shoe.
That'd be cool.
And then, I'll buy his shoe.
Cool. I would buy the shoe.
But it's just like, you know what? I know you know what you're doing, and I know that you care about this. So why not put my money into this as opposed to going to Home Depot where I started hearing so many people like. So I didn't realize how many men were into plants until I started talking about plants at the shop with my clients. And they're like, "Hey, bro, well, you know what you should do with this one? Then check this out." I'm like, so now I'm getting like advice about plants from you, from the homies at the shop.
That's awesome.
And they're like, "Yeah, I'll go to Home Depot, but you know what? There's a nursery down the street from my house, and I just go from there." Which to me, if any. Nothing wrong with buying any plants from
the big box stores.
the big box stores or anything like that. But if you have a friend that's like does this in any field, plants, clothing, books, like whatever it is, support that because
music, toys.
That's really how we thrive. That's really how the community grows, right?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing wrong with going and getting what you got to get from a Target or Walmart or anything like that. But it's cool to know that, like, if your homie's doing good, it's because you were a part of that growth.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
I thank you for that. That's really important. For me, it's important to, give back. Like how you said, hey, you know what? I see you doing your thing. Let me support you. I'll buy X from you. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be, you don't even necessarily have to be into it just because you want to, support.
And we're saying that's the thing, like for me, and I was like, I need plants for this.
Yeah.
And then it grew into this.
Yeah, which I love that. And it's so easy for it to become like, I just need it for this. And then suddenly it's, no, you know what? Well, now I want them for my own personal use.
Because even this one here, like that one, I don't even think it was, like, see, even just the way it's standing now looks a lot better.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even like half of what this was. So like we just had like the bottom, which I'll probably have to like trim those out, huh?
Yeah. So that's another cool thing too, is that with the leaves, you can always just kind of snip around the brown stuff and then it becomes more aesthetically pleasing. Or you can just cut the whole thing off if you know already that it's gonna eventually yellow and die.
One of the other plants that my daughter gave my wife some petunias.
Aww,
so one of her classmates' moms actually came, and this is how nerdy I am with fucking plants now. I went to go pick her up, and when I walked past her area because she's still in kindergarten. They have like their little section, right? Because they're divided from the rest of the school.
Yeah.
So I'm walking by and I see like a rolling cart of a bunch of petunias, pink and purple, and then I see a big trash bag of soil on the side. I'm like, where are they putting those?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? And then my daughter, I was like, baby girl, why, like, are you guys gonna plant those in the ground? She goes, no, Dad, so and so's mom brought those, and we're gonna give them to the moms for Mother's Day.
Fun.
I was like, that's dope.
Yeah.
So she came,
sweet.
And it was in a terracotta pot, and I was like, that's really cool.
How nice is that?
When she brought it, it only had like one bloomed out, right?
Okay.
And then the rest were like closed, and kind of droopy. So I was like, I don't like that, right? My wheels started spinning in my head, and I was like, hold a second.
You had the temptation, how you were like.
So then I started researching petunias, because petunias are actually outdoor plants.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it's in an area with a lot of light, so it's not like it's not getting light.
Right.
They just put fresh soil in it, so it should be fine.
Yeah.
Put a little bit more water. Started like lifting a little bit.
Yeah.
But then I started I saw a video where there was a guy saying that you could actually take on, like, petunias, the way they grow is they grow because they're gonna like stop growing at a certain point.
Right.
But when that happens, that apparently the plant is telling itself there's nothing for it to grow no more. So when it grows, it's actually okay to pull that flower off and pull it from a certain point so that it keeps on blooming more flowers.
I see.
So I went through and I was just like, all right, cool. Well, this one looks like it didn't do it all the way, but it's done. Started popping all of them.
Oh my gosh, I'm nervous.
And now, like, it's just like they stand up higher, and they're bloomed out a lot bigger.
No.
So I was like, oh shit, that's so.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, fuck, I wonder what I could do with the outside.
What can I do now?
Yeah, like, what am I gonna?
No, and it's funny, and that's exactly why I had mentioned earlier about don't be scared to cut the already dying leaves, or if they're spotting or whatever. take them off because that's going to stimulate new growth for the plant. And the longer you delay that, the longer it's going to take for the plant to start having new leaves produce, because the energy that it's currently using is to feed that leaf that's already dying. So what you're doing is just speeding up the process so that it can push more leaves out. You know what I mean?
Does that make sense? So you're just throwing it the assist.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're.
Yeah, there you go. Well, so
stop beating around the bush.
We before we go, we asked how I got into plants.
Yeah, that's right.
How the hell did you get into plants?
That's a good question. So I actually, from inception, my mom, if you go to my mom's house, she has a jungle of a home, which I didn't appreciate growing up. My mom has a bunch of bushes, shrubs, palm trees.
She's got a green
she
thumb.
has pomegranates, she has dragon fruit, passion fruit, she has oranges. Everything grows in her backyard, right? And the same way that the backyard and the front yard look is also inside the house. So the living room is filled with plants, which was my biggest, I hated it growing up because then come Saturday morning or the weekend,
it was cleaning.
Ponte a limpiar esa mesa. And there would be, the coffee table was filled with plants. And then, of course, when she was watering, the water would droop through. And then there was water spots on the coffee table that I would have to clean up at the end of, the week or whatever. So I always hated doing that. And I would always tell her, stop buying so many plants. They're everywhere. I can't stand it. And now my house is equally turning the same, which
how does Mike feel about all your plants?
He likes it.
Really?
Yeah, you know what? He doesn't mind it at all.
Well, his mother has a green thumb
as well. Yeah, she has a very
probably
green
one of the nicest backyards I've ever seen.
Yeah, she has everything grows in her backyard too. So he doesn't mind it at all. I think that the only thing I wish was can you just help me water them? So now I've become my mother.
So he likes looking at them. He's like, I like looking at them, but don't ask me to do nothing with them.
Yeah, no, which I wouldn't ask him to, because then if something were to happen to them, I totally blame him. You killed my plant.
You're like, I didn't even touch that one.
Yeah.
And then you're like, damn, that was me.
Yeah,
you did it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you did it, like Spider-Man, right? But I think what I will say about having the plants in our home is that whenever we invite anyone over, they immediately feel like a different vibe in the house. They completely zen out.
Yeah, and I think that's why when I had hit you up, man, I need plants, was for that reason too. Again, shout out to Ricky, because Ricky was the one that anytime we'd have a set, and we would do anything, it was just plants everywhere. And even the DJs that would come in, they're like, I really dig the vibe. This is cool. The one cool thing also about plants is indoor. A lot of these plants actually are doing you a service. Yeah. Right? There's some that actually they're killing a lot of the toxins that are in the air. Exactly. And you don't even know it. Exactly. And so it's just they got a job to do, and they're doing it from inside the house, which in turn helps you. I didn't realize that I forgot which one I had seen, but they had mentioned that one, I forgot what plant it was again. It actually helps with your allergies. And I was like, what the, how does a plant help with allergies if people are actually allergic or having allergies due to the shit season, like plants and the seasons and shit. But apparently there's plants that help with that. Yeah. And then I even, actual lavender, I heard is good for depression and shit. Yeah. But another key thing that it's good for is actually mosquitoes. Yeah. And I didn't know that, so I was like, you know what?
Plant those in your front yard.
Backyard's going to get, because we have the pool in the backyard.
Oh, yes.
So you know what? We're putting them all on
all around. I'm still learning how to take care of lavender. Every time that I buy it, I think it's, you know what? I'm thinking about it, and I think it's my patio and because we're on the third floor, a lot of heat just gets trapped there, and then the sun is just too strong. And I think with the cement and all of that,
It's kind of like you gotta.
radiating.
It's one of those things, the ones that you have to like actually move
I
around
think I do
in order for it to thrive.
Yeah, so I haven't been able to keep any alive myself in the current situation that I'm in. But lavender would be really nice to have because they just look pretty and they smell amazing.
What other care wise? What other like suggestion would you have for anybody that's
looking into
getting plants and like what besides obviously the repotting that we just did, and making sure that the roots have enough room to grow, and knowing which ones, like again the ZZ could have easily been in that little ass pot
for way longer,
for like another year or two probably.
I think so.
But what would you say besides repotting and checking soil? What would you say is another like key thing to make sure you're doing with indoor plants, especially?
I would say check your lighting, because the lighting has a lot to do with your plant's ability to thrive. Like we can reference the ZZ again, right? It could live anywhere. But there are other plants that need bright light, or some need indirect light, or some need low light, or, so make sure that you're checking how your house is situated and how much light goes in that particular area that you want to put a specific plant in, because that plant may or may not like that lighting situation. You know what I mean? So that's a big thing, I think.
And see, I didn't think about that when I bought that lily, that sensation off of you.
Sensation, yeah.
And I was like, oh, let me get this out the car real quick. Yeah. I put it on my patio, and then I went to go pick up the kids from school. And that 20 minutes, 30-minute window, it got hot. When I came back, the leaves are just drooped out, and some of them are black.
Yeah.
I was like, what did I do? And so they ended up burning. So apparently, if you ever get a lily sensation, or what's the other,
a peace
the
lily,
peace lily, they do not like direct sun or heat, and they can only thrive within 60 to 80 degree temperature. And in indirect light, like in the like in the little corner. It
has to be in the shade, basically.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
So that's why now I'm just making sure I cut the dead ones off.
I'm so sorry.
So the ones that did burnt, they ended up growing, and some of the burnt parts started decreasing.
Oh, good.
But they started getting burnt, the burnt part started having some white on the edge. I'm like, oh, these are about to fall off.
Oh, okay.
So I was just like, you know what? Snip it.
You just have to snip it. That's all you have to do.
It is what it is.
Yeah, you have to. Sometimes you have to. So yeah, just check the lighting. I think lighting, soil, fertilizer. Oh, which, listen, this is what happens when you're overtired and going on little sleep and dealing with an infant. Yesterday, I decided, I'm going to start fertilizing my plants. So with fertilizer, you are supposed to, the instructions usually for fertilizer say you have to dilute it because the solution is really strong. So I said, great, I'm going to pour my fertilizer into another container, dilute it with so much water, and I'm going to start fertilizing my plants. Well, I didn't realize that the container I had in my hand was the fertilizer solution, so I dumped that shit all over my plant instead of the diluted one. So I was so bummed out. So be careful with that, you guys. Whenever you're fertilizing, read the instructions, make sure you're not tired, and make sure you're looking at what you're doing.
How do you fix that?
You don't. You just...
you got to kind of wait it out.
Yeah. So what I ended up doing, because I was in such a panic, I immediately watered down the plant. I just started running it under the faucet. So but just
hopefully... just like the leaves, not the soil, right?
So with the fertilizer, it's going directly into the soil. So what I was doing was actually putting the soil part under the faucet so that it could hopefully drain out the fertilizer.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe just kill it quicker.
Yeah, because I was going to say it's going to end up... So here's the other alternative, and maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, let's hear it. Maybe something will help.
You think about repotting it?
Oh, Oh. You see, this is what you see. I'm still tired. I did not
only
think
because
about that.
it's like, well, no.
Yes,
if
you're
you
right.
if you keep watering it, you're gonna end up
putting
getting
the
a root rot
fertilizer
and all that. So maybe just repot it.
I'm gonna have to do that. Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Solutions.
See, this is why we have to collaborate.
Jeez.
Because
where's my hand
two
claps?
brains are better. Yeah, two brains are
claps.
better than one.
I'm getting good at this. Senor vibes, homie.
Yes, yeah. And I need, there's a specific plant that I bought during the height of the pandemic, and it's just slowly, actually I thought it died completely.
That's the one that you posted earlier.
Remember it was like really big and leafy?
Yeah, it was.
That's a calathea.
Yeah, okay.
So those are like the tropical ones. That you
those
have to
ones
worry
are
about.
actually kind of hard though, no?
Super hard.
There's
because
those ones, and there's another one that I've been seeing that people like. They're excited because even like the leaves are huge, but it's a tropical plant. But like people get excited, and then when they're like, "This is what it looks like," and then like 6 months later, it's just like pink.
Yeah.
And it's like no matter what you do, that's just
it dies. It just dies.
I mean, it's just that's just maybe the characteristic of it, where
It's
you got to kind of guess.
characteristic.
You just got to cut it at the stem and let it keep regrowing.
Yeah,
I guess.
and at the end of the day, it's because we're taking them out of their natural environment, and we're trying to mimic the environment that they're supposed to live in, and it's just not what they truly need.
One of the cool things that I've noticed is so now, like some of these, like this one doesn't lay as flat no more, and I feel like these plants they actually react.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Right? Like
yeah.
they go from having what they were in to this. Like when this one was here, it was just like
Floop.
flat.
Yeah.
Now it's actually starting like it's
perked
raised up
right?
a little bit more. So that was another thing that got me really like into your videos with the like watering them and then like the time lapse and they're just like
yeah, isn't that super fun? I love doing those because in the moment you think like, oh, well, nothing's really happening. And then you play it back and you realize like, whoa, this happened so slowly right in front of my eyes. So yeah, you guys can check that out on Primavera Color Limon. And it would even be cool to see the beginning of this episode with the plants and then the end to see how they changed.
Yeah, we got to go back to it.
So watch it on YouTube, y'all.
Yes. And before we go, shameless plugs. Where can obviously we mentioned Primavera
Color Limon. Yeah.
But how if people want these plants, where do they reach you? How often do you inventory and what can or can't you get?
Well, thank you for that, Ray. So yeah, you guys can go on my Instagram, Primavera Color Limon, and I pick up inventory on the 1st and on the 15th of the month, except this 15th because it just happened to be Mother's Day and there was like a blowout sale, right? So towards the end of the month, I should be picking up more. And currently, you guys are able to order for pickup in Rancho Cucamonga. So if you guys are locals or wherever you're coming from, you're gonna drive into Rancho to pick these up. And I typically the inventory that I carry is typically indoor house plants.
Okay.
With some exceptions, I can get a hold of some outdoor plants like I did for you. And I actually wanted to mention that the nursery that I got those from, they had chickens, so it made me really excited when I went in there and I was like, oh, you guys have chickens? It was very cool.
So they're like full on.
Yeah, they're like a whole farm.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty dope. Yeah, so if there's also you guys have the ability to request a type of plant. If there's a plant on your wish list that you haven't been able to get a hold of, I can write it down and I can get it for you. Cynthia, one of our freaks on our Twitch chat, she actually a few months ago had told me about a plant that she wanted. It was a Japanese honeysuckle, and for months I couldn't find it. Until finally I was like, oh, here it is. And so I was able to get it for her. So it's just a matter of if there's a plant that you're looking for, give me some time. I will locate it. I will order it. And then I will get it for you. Nice. So yeah, that's basically it, you guys. Thank you so much, Ray. Did I miss something?
Thank you. No, I think that was it.
That was good, huh?
That was, you know what? I feel like HGTV should pick us up because
HGTV, I'm here. I am the new Martha Stewart with our lovely Raymond Andrew. He is Ray. We are like Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg.
Man, we're way better than that, homie.
But better.
Wait a second. Hey, Lerma says she wants mine. Mine what? My
the foxtail agave.
You want my foxtail agave? Because actually, I do have two, and anyone who knows me is I'm a giver. Like
It's good to give.
if I have more than enough, but and I also know where I can get it.
Yeah.
So I have one here, and I have another one right here behind the camera.
She said plant that one. The foxtail?
The foxtail I got, this one that I'm pointing at, that's the one that you want. If that's the one that you want, we have an extra one, and you can have it.
Yes. Share the wealth.
Share the wealth.
Yeah.
And there's so much that A. Lerma does to support everybody, though, too. So it's just like...
I love Alerma. She
No, you're not kidding no more, homie.
Supportive.
Now, I'm giving it to you, and you have to take it. And if you don't take it, I'm going to be very offended.
Alerma is also a giver. I went to drop off some stuff that she had ordered from me a while back, and I think she had orange trees. She gave me some oranges, so I love that. And I'm now... What is she saying?
Vinny Cole's asking my wife if I'm a giver. Pause, Vinny Cole. I think you know the answer to that one, bro. But I think yeah. So this extra one I got for you right here, A. Lerma. So you either hit me up, we could set it up right. I could drop it off. You could pick it up, studio, wherever. That one's yours.
Hey, and if you guys are local again in the IE and you're in need of some therapeutic goodness, check out Alerma's sound bowl healing. She does some dope ass sessions. So we're talking about giving back.
My
Here's
wife
the shout out.
Came back from that. She was like, we all fell asleep.
It's so relaxing. Just thinking about it, I'm like in Zen mode. But anyway, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in with us today and being a part of our repotting party. I had a great ass time. Thank you for doing this with me, Ray. I hope that you got some good information.
A lot. And next time, Miss Ricky Lee is going to be in the building with us. So.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So we'll have to include her the next time that she's available. We'll have to pencil her in early. All right, guys, have a good night. Today's episode was produced live by Raymond Andrew at Rose City Sound Studio with your hosts, Natalie and, Ricky Lee's not here, so with your hosts, Natalie and Ray. What the hell? For inquiries, topic suggestions, and sponsorships, please email us at onthisfrequency@gmail.com. On This Frequency is available where all podcasts can be streamed. Watch a live stream recording every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where the sun always shines, on Twitch at twitch.tv/onthisfrequency. Watch us on YouTube and be sure to hit the subscribe button to be notified whenever we upload new episodes. You can always support the On This Frequency team by buying us some coffee. You can send us your donation at buymeacoffee.com/On This Frequency. And you can also keep in touch with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is simply @On This Frequency. For those of you tuning in on Twitch, we're closing this episode out now. So you guys have a nice night and have a great weekend. Increase the peace, y'all.
Peace.
Bye.
Vénganse. Vamos a jugar hoy, hoy, hoy. Vamos a cantar hoy, hoy, hoy. Vamos a llorar hoy, hoy, hoy. Vamos a fumar hoy, hoy, hoy. Vamos a jugar hoy.